Bonjour, comment ça va, y'all? Je m'appelle Norbert, Nolti Chabert, but everybody calls me Norbert, and you probably already knew that. And welcome back to the Backa Da House podcast, the place where we talk about the industry that we hate to love, but we all do. Let me tell you what. Whew. I don't know if this episode is going to be as robust and exciting as last episode with my damn good friend, James Klesse, the Crawfish King of New Orleans. Coming from where we come from, and being here in Bistro Ruth at Nicholls State University, it's always a pleasure when you can bring back one of the truly impressive folks that have left school, are out in the real world, doing what they've been taught, practicing the skills of the trade that they learned here in Thibodaux on the bayou, and are bringing it to great places like the city of New Orleans, his hometown. And it was exciting, man, to have him just tell us about what it's like to grow up, not with your mindset being, I'm going to go into the culinary field, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, and just kind of letting life dictate how it went. And then when you get there, you're starting small, but you're finishing off big. And that story about how he started just doing pop-ups, and next thing you know, he's taking over kitchens, and next thing you know, he's balling in people's backyards and doing stuff on the road. And now he's got an incredible shop, and we can't be more happy for James. And the feedback that we got from the episode was tremendous. He's hilarious. I don't know if we'll ever have a guest more animated than Klesse. Hopefully in the future we'll have a couple of folks that like to have a little toddy every now and then, because I really enjoyed that aspect of it too, to be honest with you. But look, if you missed that episode, go back and check us out wherever you get your podcasts. We also have the YouTube channel, so do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe, share it with your friends, and become a regular. The schedule isn't, but we want your viewing to be kind of regular. So with that, it's an interesting time of year. I spend a lot of time in Baton Rouge professionally, formerly worked in the legislature a lot. And it's session season. And when session season comes around, you have a lot of hard work in the Capitol and a lot of hard work outside of the Capitol. A lot of that work's done in the restaurants and in the bars in and around Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Sometimes on the weekends it's done in New Orleans and Houma and Lafayette, wherever you may be, okay? But you get to really know the people that are running the establishments in and around Baton Rouge. In governmental affairs and politics, whether it's in Baton Rouge or Austin or Jackson or Washington, D.C., having food and drink and camaraderie with both constituents and advocates and legislators and leaders from around the state and region and country and world, that's just part of it. So you find yourself in restaurants a lot, getting to know the people that run them. My guests today are the crown princes of prime, if you will, as it relates to steakhouses in Baton Rouge. Kevin Kimble and Leo Verde have probably run and been involved in more steakhouses than anybody else in the state of Louisiana. I'm excited to have them. It's going to be an interesting discussion. If you know me, I love a steakhouse. It's part of my true ethos, and one of the things that I love to make more than just about anything in my family. We're connoisseurs of the red meat. To an extreme in some circumstances. We'll probably get a little bit to that. But we're also Italian. And that brings me to the single best bite of food that I've had since the last episode. Speaking of restaurants in Baton Rouge, I've been going to Baton Rouge since I was 6 years old. Okay? And we've seen a lot of restaurants come and a lot of restaurants go. We recently lost one that is still going in its home location and other locations around the state. And I'm talking about Marcello's, okay? If you haven't been to Marcello's in Lafayette, you're really missing out. Could be the best restaurant in Lafayette. They had a location in Baton Rouge. They had one on St. Charles. We all know what happened during COVID and how difficult that was on the industry. They've since closed those locations, but are operating others. Well, let me tell you something. I went to dinner there a few weeks ago, and I had a dish that when you go to Marcello's and you go to a lot of Italian restaurants, what are some of the staples that you can have? The piccata, right? The lasagna, the spaghetti, the bolognese, all that's perfect. Another staple of a truly a great Italian restaurant is how good is the marsala, right? And normally, you're thinking of marsala and you're getting chicken marsala, which I love, or you're getting veal marsala, which I really love, okay? I really like a veal chop, but I love veal marsala. Well, not on the lunch menu, but on the dinner menu, Marcello's has a braised pork cheek marsala. And they serve it to you with the angel hair pasta. They braise that pork all day long from when they're prepping for lunch service, and they start serving it at dinner. And let me just tell you what. I don't say this often when I'm talking about the single best bite, but I'm salivating right now thinking about it. I mean, that Marsala wine sauce was perfect. It worked so well with the braised pork cheeks. It worked so well that my business partner and I had to go back to Lafayette for a lunch meeting, okay? Like 2 weeks later, I was still thinking about it. I wanted to order the braised pork cheek. They said, no, we only have that at dinner because it takes so long and we put so much love into it. You can't have it for lunch. So I got the veal, and it was excellent as well. But let me just tell you, when it comes to the single best bite of food that I've had since Clessy sat in that chair, it's the braised pork cheek marsala at Marcello's in Lafayette, Louisiana. We all know that Lafayette, look, I don't want to be critical. That's another part of the show. But Lafayette's restaurant scene ain't where it needs to be. Pump up your game, Lafayette. You're getting there. But one true jewel, and maybe the best restaurant in Lafayette, Marcello's. Go check it out. Now, when we come back, we're going to have the two great guys. They've taken care of me for years. They will continue to take care of me. I love them like brothers and can't wait to have them on the show. We'll be back with Kevin Kimble and Leo Verde, those crown princes of prime from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Kevin Kimble with Leo Verde from Stabs Prime on Jefferson Highway. Wait, whoa, Leo, what's with the Italian music?
Have you seen this awesome pizza oven we got?
Of course, but we only do pizzas across the street at Palermo's.
Well, what's this oven for?
Our wood-fired oysters, ooey gooey greatness.
Ah, those beautiful Gulf oysters with spicy garlic buttered shrimp and crab cooked in the wood-fired pizza oven. Brilliant!
Don't forget the shrimp or scallops. Pure deliciousness. Stabs Prime on Jefferson Highway.
All right, welcome back to the Backa Da House podcast with my guys right here. Let me just tell you what. I know I said it before, but I'm going to say it again. These guys have taken care of me so many times, and I hope I don't say anything in this podcast today that makes them stop doing it into the future. Kevin.
Can't do it.
Leo, welcome. Leo Verde, Kevin Kimble. So I've been going out to eat in Baton Rouge since I was 6 years old, okay? And Kevin will appreciate this. Kevin's dad, Clyde, served in the house with my dad way back when. Well, somewhere in the mid-'80s, they were doing a profile on Dad, King of the Bayou type thing. And they followed him around for like 4 days. Picayune, New Orleans. The reporter, he made the mistake of bringing a reporter to Ruth's. All right? Well, little 7-year-old Norby, he tells him, get whatever you want. And at that time, you remember, they still had the lobster tank. And I walked in, I was like, I want that one. Well, that sapsucker wound up being, I don't know, like 8 pounds. So it was ridiculous, all right? The lobster was almost $100. Back in mid-'80s. That was a lot of money. Okay, when they put it in the paper, sent it to Chavez, son, this big old lobster. And he says, nothing's too good for my little Norby. That's it. So that's how long I've been going out to eat in Baton Rouge. These guys been working the circuit, not only in Baton Rouge, around all over the place for a long time. But welcome to the podcast. How y'all do? Thank y'all for coming down to Bayou, first of all.
Great trip. Great trip. Yeah, enjoyed it. It's always
Google Maps got us down here. It was easy.
Waze took me through some very interesting back roads.
Oh, it's the heart of the river parish, where the river parishes meets the bayou country, and that's the intersection of Nichols and Nichols. So this is the famous Bistro Ruth. We were all talking about it. Kevin very early on with the what was the group you were associated with? That's
With
helped us.
TJ Moran with them, with Ruth in
Yeah.
those days. But the Baton Rouge Epicurean Society and then the New Orleans Wine and Food Experience.
Very involved with the embryonic stages of the University and Culinary Institute, where y'all gave us some scholarship money, right?
We did establish some scholarships from the Epicurean Society out of Baton Rouge, and the LRA. Through their educational program, we did the Pro Start funding, and some monies out of NAUFI were delivered to the Culinary Institute here.
Yeah, that's
So
great.
We've
That's-
been big fans.
The Louisiana Restaurant Association is a powerful entity in this state, and you guys have been involved with it for so long on various fronts.
Well,
and,
shout out to Stan Harris as well too.
Stan's amazing.
You know, he's incredible. You know, we worked with Stan
We both worked with Stan
when
before.
he was at Ruth Chris. You know, with TJ Moran. So
What were those
we go
days
back-
like?
Which days?
The TJ
Moran days
Yeah.
at Ruth Chris. I'll let you start. I'll finish it.
Because the Institute has we have such a close bond with the Ruth folks. I mean, Ruth was a big believer
was unbelievable.
in the Institute from its embryonic days when Dr. Io and Chef False were talking about it. Huge supporter. TJ was a supporter, but not many people realize that Baton Rouge location was the
first
second,
franchise.
Yeah,
The
the
first
second
franchise.
location, the first franchise.
So the story was, and it is, and because Ruth told me herself out of her mouth, she called him Tommy. And she said, if it weren't for Tommy Moran, I would have been a very successful owner of 4 or 5 steakhouses. She said, TJ would go down. He got mad at a guy at a steakhouse in Baton Rouge, okay? And he told him, I'm gonna put you out of business. He came down here to New Orleans, and he badgered her. He badgered Ruth into her. She finally hired a franchise attorney to do some franchise papers for TJ in Baton Rouge to get him off of her back.
Wow.
That's exactly what happened. And then when TJ signed it up and he says, well, wait a minute, I want more than Baton Rouge. And so he ended up cutting up and paid her some more money for other states. And when she came back to her gin rummy table with a lot of the other guys at that table,
Marcel Taylor.
Marcel was at
Taylor
the table.
being one of them.
The Judge Fleming was
Yes.
there. Okay, when she told those
given up the
guys,
country.
she told those guys what she had just done, and she was like, "Look at what this guy in Baton Rouge just did. Can y'all believe he is paying this money for this?" And they were like, "Wait.
We went in the deal.
I want this. I want that." She sold the whole rest of the country out at her gin rummy table.
Marcel Taylor.
That's the
Marcel
story.
Taylor got the West Coast.
That's it.
And he
That's
had
the
one
way
in
it went.
Seattle, one in Las Vegas, 2 in Las Vegas, and that's how the whole thing
I mean,
blew up.
Ruth, do you
Ruth
agree?
Hotel, yeah.
It is the most iconic steakhouse, arguably in the world.
There's no question.
You
There's
know?
no question.
And in Ruth herself, I mean, I remember like it's yesterday. I mean, she was such an iconic individual. I mean, the matriarch of her and Ella Brennan in Louisiana. She would come into animals and cigarette in hand, cocktail in the other one, and like, look, I mean, those days you can smoke
Yeah.
in the middle of the dining room, and like, she was sitting at that table 16. Never forget that. And she would come in and she would just talk to everybody, loved on everybody,
Yeah.
and she was the best of the best.
I've only met her once.
She smoked that cigarette so fast
Oh yeah.
that the core would barely burn. So she would have an
Another
ash. She'd have an ash burn like 3 inches, and you would talk to her, and you were just sitting there waiting for
When
the
it's gonna
ash
fall.
burn to fall. It's
Yeah.
like, I need to catch this.
Yeah.
What's going on? And that was it. She
Well,
was a lovely.
and she was
lovely
lining up
lady.
another one right after that. Too.
Yeah, lovely,
We're
lovely
going to talk a
lady.
lot about politics, and it's gonna sort of be interwoven with all this, because when we were talking at the beginning of the podcast about it's the equivalent of doing business on a golf course. When you're involved in and around government, whether it's in Baton Rouge or Austin or Jackson, Mississippi, it gets done around the dinner table, the lunch
Without a
table,
doubt.
No question.
the bar, without a doubt. Nobody has seen that more than both of y'all. But to stay on the root topic in New Orleans, when I graduated from Nichols, first job I went to work in New Orleans. It was Senator Landry was running for her first reelection. Went to work for her doing a field, and they were still doing those. Broad was still open, right?
Of course.
Bruce, that the original. Well, technically not the original
Right.
location,
Yeah. Right.
but the true first Ruth's. And there was an amazing write-up in the Picayune, whatever it's called now, New Orleans Advocate, recently about the whole Ruth story. And it made its way around Facebook and whatnot, and about her husband and all this stuff. But that was one of the, when we were working off of St. Charles Avenue, okay, and you would go through the whole week, and then you'd be like, all right, where are all our people going on Friday, and this, that, and the other, and then you go there on a Friday, and it's like a Galatoire's Friday, okay, but for a completely different clientele, and when I say hooked, I was hooked, and I was blessed and lucky. You know, I say it all the time on the podcast. I am blessed and lucky that both my professional career in and out of politics allows me to do Friday cocktail lunches, dinners, entertaining clients and whatnot, which gives you a different appreciation for the business. Because coming up from it, look, I started working with Marty when Dad passed away, and he and my brother had a convenience store that they bought me out of. But then we passed that law, and
gas station truck stop, right?
Correct. And Terrebonne Parish allowed for it, so they became a truck stop. And I went from sweeping the parking lot and stocking the coolers, okay, and filling up the freezers with the French fries and the hamburgers, all right, for the short order, to turning 18. And now I'm slinging drinks in the video poker parlor, and that was my true first
now
bar.
I'm in the real.
Yeah, and it was like,
business.
It's on. And I went on, the bar side was, I worked in a restaurant, but I was always a bartender, right? And the cocktail side of it, and I went on to own bars. And, I took a lot of influence in my first place from Sullivan's, a place that you worked at.
Right.
And but enough about my background. They all know that. I want to know where you guys got your humble beginnings, because I know when I originally met you, and we've all talked through the years. We've been knowing each other for a long, long time now. But tell me more. I want to know more. How'd you get in?
Leo came up.
And more importantly, what kept you here?
Yeah, a couple of loose screws.
It's a little bit of masochism,
Leo came up through some of the most glamorous and highly touted restaurant scenes in New Orleans, and worked his way up from there. But mine was a different twist. I'm kind of like the bar end, right? I go to LSU and I get a job, and I'm a bouncer at a college bar.
Which one? We want names. We're taking receipts here.
Yeah.
It was called the Dugout.
All right.
It was on East Boyd, and it was Doc's first, and it closed down. And then when Doug Robertson secured some money for a liquor license, his partner was Gino Marino. It was Gino and Lawrence. And so I was a bouncer for them, and they brought in a partner. Long story short, I wanted to get out of the bar end of the business, and I started bussing tables for them at Gino's instead. So I did that for 2 years. Actually, no. I started in there. I was for 2 years before I started managing the place. I did that for about 6 months, and then I taught myself how to bartend, and they lost a bartender. And so I just moved right to the bar, because I had already
threw you to the walls.
I had already gone in on my own time as a staging maybe, okay, and learned how to bartend. So I made myself the logical choice. Who needs to clean the table? You got to fix a drink. So I filled that hole. And then actually Lawrence and Gina were both out of town, and Mama would come in, Mama Marino, who I absolutely idolized as a saint was walking on this earth. God rest her soul. She would come in to watch her stories between lunch and dinner. Okay? And then she would nod off at the table. She would nod off. And she had a set of keys with a big nickel on it. And it clang, 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 so we all could know when Mama was coming, right? It's the cat bell.
Yeah.
So you'd straighten up, Mama's coming. So I went to her and I said, Mom, I had decided that I wanted to get into the restaurant business. This is what I wanted to do. I was enrolled in my last 9 hours of school. I was going to go to law school because I was supposed to, right?
Right.
Dad in politics, Mom a judge.
And for those of you who may not be aware, Kevin we talked about his dad. His mother is the legendary Kitty Kimble, first female Chief Justice of the Louisiana Supreme Court, who we absolutely adore.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. So I'm on a law school path. It's what I felt like I was good at it. That's what I felt like I was supposed to do. And I just said, you know what? This is what I love. And I said, Ma, let me have your keys. I'm going to go make a copy, and I'm going to start helping you around here. And she says, okay, baby. And she didn't.
Gave her the keys.
Yeah. I made copies. I hired a fellow, Randy, another guy named Gary. I hired 2 bartenders, and I started coming in, open to close. And when Gino and Lawrence came back in, and their sister, Frances, it's like my Sicilian family, all of them, love them dearly. They kind of looked at me a little funny for a little bit, and after another.
I can see Gino now like, what's going on here?
Yeah, what's this guy doing?
Yeah,
What's
we
he doing?
go away for 2 weeks and like.
And my white bucks and my khaki pants, my uniform, right, college kid uniform, right, khaki pants. Didn't have the blue blazer.
And my question is this, twofold. One, how did your big ass fit behind that small bar?
It was tight. Poor Karen. Poor Karen.
2, what an iconic
He just
place.
call you.
Yeah, he did.
I didn't call him fat. I said he's a
Look,
big.
He's lost
big,
20
big
pounds, so
large.
you got to give him some.
It's not the nicest way I've been called fat. That was Paul Prudhomme, but that's another story.
So the Geno's, which you cannot be in the Baton Rouge restaurant scene and not know what Baton Rouge what Geno's is. Couldn't wait to LSU and last. How long have they been going?
Oh, they've been there since the early 70s.
Yeah.
47.
72
So since
maybe?
then, you in Baton Rouge, Geno's.
68, I think.
For the longest time, it was probably one of the nicest, if not the nicest place there. What was it like in those days working at that place?
I mean, it was a lot of fun, obviously, because moving behind the bar, I did that for a year and a half, and then I moved into management there. They had Gino had a friend that was kind of running the bus boys and hosting a little bit. That was the closest thing that they had done outside of the family to be really at a management position.
Yeah.
So I loved it. Gino kind of took me under his wing a little bit. I was interested in wine. He was starving for somebody to want to learn about wine, and so that was a natural click. We laugh all the time. We got to be very close. Gino and his wife Karen were in my wedding, and I was in his third wedding. Wow. Right? So but it was a family, and still is a family. It's an iconic spot there, and they've got a really dear place in my heart. The whole family
it's
does.
wild, whether you go to Geno's or Ruth's or any of y'all fabulous restaurants that we talk a lot about. It's Baton Rouge is still a small big town.
That's right.
Right, it's a very small big town. First place I met Coach Kelly, right? He and Scott and another big booster who will remain nameless. Well, they were just in there sitting at the table like you couldn't miss them. Right, first table in the bar. Not trying to hide, not nothing. And I love that about Baton Rouge in general. You never know who you're going to run into. We're all friends with everybody. Some of them we're not. But you see them, and everybody, it's not like you're in New Orleans and you have to go out of your way to try to find somebody. It's not like here where if you go out to eat, you see 37 people in the restaurant that you probably related to. Baton Rouge, as big of a town as it is, still remains that little small town.
The difference between Baton Rouge and other cities is like, people really like each other in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about Gino. I mean, I can talk the same way about Gino. It's just, and he can talk the same way about us. I mean, it's just, the late Ruff and Rodrigue. I mean, you develop those relationships that they're not competitors. We don't. It's not like, man, I'm gonna try to get these. No, it's just we go eat there, they go eat there. I mean, it's different. There's a lot of places which is really, really cutthroat.
No doubt.
Where like, I want their business. I want to see them with a close for business sign.
And in those days,
you don't see that in Baton Rouge,
right? In those original days when you were coming up in BR, there wasn't a whole lot of options, right? In terms
that's right.
of fine dining, and not that Geno's is the finest dining place, but there wasn't a whole lot of options.
Well, TJ had the monopoly. He had the rib. If you want ribs, you went to TJ Ribs. Steak,
Memphis
for Mexican.
Yeah.
Italian was Rufino's, and the
with
steak
Chris.
was with Chris. Yeah. And then, but that wasn't that far long ago.
Right? No,
That was like
Absolutely not.
25 years ago.
When I got elected to the Senate in 2009, okay, I was shocked at how much it had not changed. Now, remember the year I'm talking about. The place we kept going to over and over again that was amazing downtown was Little Village.
Little Village, that's
Okay.
it, yep.
That's y'all place. That's one of y'all
right.
places.
That's right.
But downtown at that time, I don't even know if Struby's was open yet, which is there now, and I think it was Tsunami, y'all, and not much else.
That was
Okay, it's
Right.
come so far in such a short period of
no
time,
question.
with y'all being the anchor. I mean, Little Village. I gotta ask you right now,
The bread.
the Lawrence bread at Geno's. Did you get some inspiration from it? Did y'all get
No,
some
I had
inspiration
nothing
from
to
it?
do with that. Look, Wayne Stabiler
That's
is who we
Wayne's,
work
yeah.
for, and really, you know, Wayne was behind Joey DeStefano, and when they did the Little Village, and then Joey, I think it was only a few months after they were open, and Joey had a heart attack, passed away.
I did not know that.
And so then here's Wayne. He's full-fledged in the restaurant business now. So Wayne is very particular about what he likes. He goes all over the country looking for things that he likes, inspiration, fine dining restaurants. So he's sending us to a restaurant next week in Dallas that he went to before the LSU women's basketball championship game. And he called and he says, "Take Leo, y'all need to go check this place out." Had a great time, go. And so that, you know, that's Wayne. He went and found that bread, and he got all of that lined up. So he deserves the credit for
The thing
for
I love
all of
about
those
that
things.
bread, the tapenade.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That black olive
No,
tapenade.
tapenade
You
is-
can't get that very many places. Just awesome that they even thought about doing it. The bread itself is phenomenal.
Fantastic.
If you never had it,
Yeah.
get the half loaf. Okay.
No, get the whole loaf.
No, you get 2 loaves. No, what are you talking about half a loaf? Yeah?
'Cause,
you,
hey,
you eat a half a loaf. You eat
Big as my arm,
Yeah, it's-
big as Kevin's head. I mean, it's huge.
That's-
Okay,
that's-
and phenomenal. You
It's
eat.
pretty badass bread. I'm telling you.
It's amazing.
You know, if you're a bread addict,
You got another one at Palermo that's ridiculous too.
Palermo's got some beautiful, beautiful bread there. But
So,
the
run-
smaller, nice, more refined
Yeah.
sticks.
Right,
if you will. But
The
I mean,
I
our
wa-
bread at Stabs is really good
Yeah,
too.
we're definitely going to talk a lot about Stabs here coming up. I want to talk more about Wayne in a minute, but tell me more about you and how you came up and where you started.
Man, that's a long time ago. This year makes my 43rd year in the business.
Unbelievable.
So, I don't know. The way I look at it is like, you know, Norby, people go their whole entire life looking for their passion, right? You know, and I mean, I heard you talk about food and, you know, listen to your podcast. And, you know, I was blessed that I knew my passion when I was 8 years old, 9 years old. So growing up in New Orleans, you know, I'm originally from Venezuela. My father was a diplomat. We traveled all over the world, lived everywhere. I always liked food. I always loved restaurants. We moved to New Orleans, and my God, you know, you got Galatoire's, Arno's, you know, all this amazing Tortorici's going back, you know, 45 some odd years back. That's what I wanted to do. I mean, I would go to this restaurant. I can tell you every restaurant where I had my birthday,
Yeah.
starting at 9 years old,
Yeah.
going where I ate at 9, 10, you know, 12. Kids wanted to have a party at Chuck E. Cheese or Skate Country or Putt Putt. I was like, no, Dad, I want to go to a nice
Yeah,
restaurant.
I'm in Andreas.
So so we were exposed to the, you know, the tableside cooking and the garridons
Yeah.
coming to the tables, and you know, I was 9 years old. I was like, Dad, you got to get the Café Burlot and the Café Pierre, and make sure they do Cher's Jubilee and Banana Foster's tableside, because I want to see the guys in the tuxedos doing the thing. So that passion started at a very early age. I made probably the only mistake I've made in my life. I questioned my father.
Uh-oh.
I was, I think it was at the end of my freshman year at De La Salle. I didn't want to ride the school bus anymore. I said, Dad, I'm riding the school bus an hour and a half every morning. You got to give me a car. I can't ride the bus. So we used to go to a place called Pastori's Restaurant on Exchange Alley. Is now the Pelican Club.
Yeah.
And used to go there once, 3 times a month. We'd go there on a Sunday night. First weekend off on starting my sophomore year in high school. First day of the summer. And the guy comes around the table, kisses my mom, kisses my sisters. Hey, Leonardo, how you doing? I'm like, oh, hey, you know, let's eat some pasta and gnocchis, you know, the whole thing. We leaving, and the guy goes, hey, Leonardo, see you tomorrow. And I look at my mom and my dad like, are we coming back to eat tomorrow? He goes, no, you're working for me tomorrow. And I was like, where's this coming from? And he was like, hey, remember you don't want to ride the bus anymore? You're working the whole summer. So that whole summer, 1980, I learned more that summer than I'd learned in 4 years of college at UNO, and got my degree from UNO. And it was incredible. I mean, it was just like, wow. That's when I caught the fever, the bug.
Yeah.
You know, and I started as a dishwasher. Worked there all through high school, all through college. You know, got to be a manager, general manager, and, you know, one day I said, you know what, I need to grow more. And I said, I'm going to go to Commander's Palace. And it was 1989, I believe. And Emerals was the chef there. He was probably 3 years into his tenure there. And had all this, I thought was all this expertise, you know, ran management, you know, I was a dishwasher, cook, waiter, general manager, and they're like, not so fast, my friend. You got to start as a runner. And they gave you this big blue bow tie that was, look, you know, you stunned out 200 miles away, they can see you with that blue bow tie. And I ran trays there for 3 months, I think. Moved up the ladder, became a captain in the dining room, the garden room upstairs.
Yeah.
From there, Emerald said he was leaving. A few of us left with him and worked for him for about, Lordy, I don't know, 14, 15 years.
Wow.
It was incredible.
Now we gotta pause right here. So, what was it like at that time? Okay, we talk about Geno's and
It was crazy.
the time. What was it like to be with I think we'll all agree, the father of the celebrity chef status,
Oh, yeah,
and
you know,
which now it's a global phenomenon.
Well, you know, Norby, times have changed, of course. You know, some things for the better. You know, because the industry could be a pretty crazy industry. You know, we all know a lot of the things that go in the industry, back of the house, front of the house. You know, there's a little bit of abuse when it comes to, you know, drinking and eating and debauchery.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, look, if anybody works in the restaurant business, you'll make it on any walk of life in any career.
Tell that to people all the time.
I tell, just work 1 year and you'll be able to do anything.
That's it.
You say you were a bartender. Yeah, normally you were a psychologist, a psychiatrist,
100%.
a confidant. You know,
100%.
you're like, oh, Mr. Jones, how are you? Oh, he's not with his wife.
Yeah.
Hey, how are you, young lady? How are you?
Right.
You're with your dad here today, right? You know,
Good.
I mean, you see everything.
You see it
so
all.
you develop this incredible
And you hear it all.
And
One of the best lessons I learned was discretion.
discretion.
You know?
No
Because
doubt.
You
just
never
like what
tell
you just
anybody,
said.
hey, it's nice seeing you again.
Yeah.
You know,
I had
he was
a
there 3 days ago. I mean, we got a guy comes into a restaurant, Valentine's, 4 days in a row.
yeah.
Different person. You don't go, hey, buddy, nice to see you again. You want the same table you had last night?
I'll bring up discretion. The end of the podcast, we do a critical critique. All right? And it's not to tear anybody down. It's like, hey, I went here. This is an experience I had. Here's a way to improve it next go round. And that's part of the critical critique on this episode. So I'm glad we went there. But
No, it's just, I mean, it's changed. The industry has changed tremendously. I mean, you know, Kevin can tell you a million stories. I can tell you a million stories about, you know, employees, customers, what they were allowed to do, not to do, what kids were allowed to do. I mean, years ago, we used to worry about taking smoking breaks.
Yeah.
Right? Where is he?
Yeah, it's changed
They're
tremendously.
smoking. Now they're on the phone.
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, we'll
They're
put
on
the
their
phone.
watches.
They're on the watches.
But y'all
on their
both
watches.
touched on something that I think is really puts the exclamation point on what you were saying. I did it. You did it. You just gave a perfect example of how you did it. There's a cross-training that occurs with the people that either are identified by the general manager or the owner or the team captain that says, okay, you got it. I saw you can carry that tray for 4 hours a night, right? Can you do this, right? And then you go learn something else. And then you may work at some places, like when I was working, my last true bartending gig before I graduated was with Grady Verde, who owns Pepper's Pizzeria here and Piazza Bar and all that stuff. Well, he opened up what was at the time, a martini bar. This was when martini bars were a thing.
It's not in there.
But it was attached to an Italian pizza joint. And he said, look, you're going to be serving the food from over there in this upscale place. Now, we're going to dress it up. But that's what we're doing. Well, when the fry cook ain't there, one of y'all may have to go work the fryer. So we learned every station. We learned, how to, we obviously had to learn and I'd love to get y'all what it was like when the register changed to touchscreen and how much of a change that was in the training and the hours you spent on people that couldn't comprehend, where table 9 was on a screen. But we had a diamond touch system, and we had to memorize all the drinks. We had to memorize, and we had a daiquiri machine, which was nuts. Worked. Great drinks. Had to memorize that. We were the first true espresso machine in Thibodeau at the time. We had to learn how to make true espresso and cappuccino.
There's an art to that too. That's not as easy as you would think, right?
Yeah, and the pizza joint side of it. So the cross training is like you said, just that preparing you to be disciplined to learn different things prepared you so much for life.
You're talking about going to a touchscreen, man. We're old. How about we could tell you when we went from handwritten tickets to the first register system. Okay, Gino's daddy used to sit in the back by the back door, barely spoke any English. He had a cigar box and a pistol.
Yes.
And everybody was terrified to go back there to him, and that was it. He would go talk to him in Italian. They'd give him the money. He'd make a change out of the cigar box, and that was that.
Nobody was going to rob him.
Nope, they weren't robbing him.
No, I remember at Emerald's, we were not allowed to write things down. So, we had pre-shifts. And at pre-shift, Emerald would come out and he would start, with, this is what we're going to do today. This is the features. And then you went to 3 features and it was like, and then the tasting menu. So the tasting menu, the degustation, was 6, 7 courses. So you had to memorize that plus a wine. So when you went to the table, this is, and I can tell you some of the items right now, like I can tell you my first name and last name.
Yeah.
We write down. That's new. Computers, we still have trouble going into okay, give me Brad, please. He knows how to do this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, but going back to your point, learning the nuts and bolts, the tackling and blocking is what
and the teamwork.
And the teamwork is what made a lot of people successful. You never forget where you came from. And I think the Brennans were big on that. I mean, every old time restaurateur, that's what they taught you. You gotta start from bottom up to learn and be able to teach other people about it. Times have changed.
Yeah.
They want the corner office. Where's my parking spot? Where's my, where
But the method of doing what we do has not changed, really. It's still the same. So I get a lot of, man, Kevin, you and Leo, y'all are together at Stabs Prime. Y'all are both in the building? Are you his boss? Is he your boss? I'm like, well, we both work for Wayne. That's the relationship. Yeah. And they're like, whoa, how are y'all getting along? You're two, big personalities.
There was like over and under.
Yeah, that's right.
When the first came on board, they're like, you hurt. People say, oh man, this over and under that you guys are going to last like 6 months together.
Yeah, there's no way we would work together in the same building, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Well, so the thing, and one of Leo's biggest strengths, other than his passion, I'll tell you this, it's in a nutshell. You talked about Mom being elected to the Supreme Court, right? Well, when Mom first got elected, I believe it was 1993.
Yeah,
you were a server at Emerald's. Is that right?
No, I was already
92?
I was a manager.
Okay. Well,
not 93, 94. I was starting to be a manager.
Starting to be a manager, right? Because I remember eating there then. So Mom, as much as she grew up, her father is where my passion for the food came from. He was ordering in Alexandria, Louisiana. He was ordering Omaha steaks in the 50s. He'd have the wine guys would come and sell him Burgundies and Bordeaux's to his house, like the wine trade people come to the restaurants nowadays. Okay. He wanted the best of everything. He was very successful, stock market and everything else. So the Coca-Cola truck would drive up to his house once a week and offload it was amazing. So Mom came from a whining and dining and the
Part of
best
her
of
life,
things,
yeah.
silver spoon type of
Yeah.
deal. You know, she grew up that way, knew the finer things in life. So she gets elected to the Supreme Court. She moves down to New Orleans. Dad's not leaving New Roads.
Hell no.
So she was in New Orleans all week long and then would come back to New Roads for the weekends, right? So she's by herself. Well, she was also a Southern lady in the sense that she wouldn't go up to a bar and order her own drink. She wouldn't go out to dinner with another gentleman, work or not, unless there were at least 3 people there. There were things that
Yeah.
a Southern lady did not do. So Mom, for the first 3 weeks she was in New Orleans, the mecca of food for the world, okay, she would do nothing but takeout. She would not go out to a restaurant because she was by herself and she didn't think it was appropriate.
Right.
And she really wasn't comfortable with it. And I told her one day, I called her and I said, Mom, she was living across the street from Emerald's in St. Mary's Market.
St. Mary's
I said,
Market,
Mom,
yeah.
I said, you need to go. This is ridiculous. Do I need to take off of work to come down
Yeah,
there
go eat with
to
you.
take you out
Right.
to dinner, you know? And she goes, no. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. And she worked herself up and she walked across the street to Emerald's. And she called me that night at about 10:30, which was odd for Mom to be up that late and not working and on the phone, period.
Right,
So
right.
she called me and she said, I'm cured. And I said, what do you mean you're cured? She said, I had a wonderful meal. She said, I had a great time. She said, my server there was Leonardo. He took care of me like you would not believe. He introduced me to everybody. I told him about where I lived across the street. By the time I left there, he had the maitre d's, busboy. Anytime, Justice Kimble, you would like to come in, you call here. Someone will walk across the street and escort you to the restaurant.
Wow.
And she said that was all Leo. That was the service that he was giving to one-on-one to a female by herself walking into the restaurant. Not a six-top of,
Right.
you know,
Businessman.
businessmen that
Right,
are
right.
buying $2,000
Right.
bottles of wine. You know, not a big table. It was a single woman sitting by herself. That's the service that he gave her. So I tell people all the time, I said, I've known Leo more than almost anybody else in Baton Rouge. You know, because that's we go
Definitely
back to
more,
that
yeah,
point.
yeah.
We go back to that point. So
That's so wild. And you know the thing that I find that is unfortunate, but it's happening, is that lack of caring for the individual or the 4-top in lieu of the 6-top or the 10-top, or you start identifying who's important in your market and are they becoming regulars, and you know, with your ability now to market directly to people with social media and whatnot, I find that some places are going a little too far in that. You get these emails and you're getting on this list, and it's kind of boxing out a lot of people. There's another restaurant in Baton Rouge I mentioned that we used to go in there all the time. Okay, and it was a real regular place, right? And a big name place and whatnot. Now it's hard to get a table in there, right? Because they're catering, it seems, to a different type of people. And another part I want to talk about is the turnover that's occurring. One thing that New Orleans still holds strong, and I really, really love it. Look, I love Galatoire's. Galatoire's Friday for me is,
The same
You know,
how can you not love
You're talking
Galatoire's
yeah,
Friday?
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, the same
and the same staff for forever,
Yeah.
and you play. You go into a place like that, and you could have waiters making $100,000 a year, more. It's wild. And
Yeah, I know where you're going with it. I mean, listen, I
the
think
turnover.
The turnover. Well, it goes back to number one. You just talk about what we're dealing with, right? The millennials, and you gotta. Things have changed.
Yeah.
I was a very, very, very tough person to work for.
I've heard that about
Because because I've always I wasn't gonna settle for less than greatness.
Yeah.
There's a great book called Good to Great, right? And Good to Great never mentions anything about the restaurant business, but it tells you everything about how to become great. I think that we're losing that. When I go to a table and I do every table check, and I'm like, how is everything? Somebody tells me, oh, it's good. Something's wrong.
you. Right.
Now, if you tell me, hey, it's great, all right, now we're talking.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to compromise my wanting to be great because someone doesn't want to be great. So you set the expectation level, And we're fortunate. I mean, we are really, really blessed as Stabs that we have a great core of individuals. I mean, we got 35 some odd servers right now. Some of those kids have been with us for 4 years. You know how hard it is to retain
Yeah.
some kids for 4 years in a college town? Especially in this business now, they can go anywhere.
And it's so hard to.
If you tell them, hey, give me a phone. No, I'm not going to give you a phone. Okay, they go somewhere else. They got 20 jobs lined up somewhere else.
Yeah.
Our staff is not like that. They really like what we're doing. They love what we're doing. They're making money. The connections that they're making with guests.
Yeah.
You know, my God, you talk about, it's a who's who in our restaurant last night. Coming over here.
I've employed personally people that I've met just,
Yeah.
hey, you've served me for a long time. I know what your work ethic's like. I could see it. I could tell you attention to detail. And I've hired people
Yes.
based on that.
You didn't hire any of our servers, did you?
I've hired some of his old
Yeah,
servers.
he used to.
100%.
I was going to go like, okay, let's talk about that. You know?
100%. I have.
Yeah, but Normie, but that's going to back. It was like, you know, some of those young ladies that used to work for me at Sullivan, you know, they were there for 4 or 5 years.
And are lawyers and doctors now.
Well, you know,
You know?
I got one that just married. I mean, she moved to L.A. From Villeplat. I remember interviewing the young lady. Her name was Dinesh Prudhomme. And Dinesh, hey, you know anything about wine? Yeah, some are white, some are red. And I'm like, you hire. You know why? She was from Villeplat. Personality was incredible. She was good looking. She was just a great young lady that worked for me for 4 years, made a lot of money. She's been living in L.A., has been to 5 Olympics, Winter Olympics, 4 Summer Olympics. She's married to the GM of the L.A. Kings hockey team.
Wow.
What'd she do? She learned from the restaurant business.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's how you teach them and how you bring them along. And I mean, look, we work every day. Every day we don't come to work and I think, open up, let's bring them in.
And getting kind of back to that old line, you know, we talked about it, and I want to thank Dr. Jay Clune and his lovely wife, Miss Allison, the First Lady of University, who came out to meet Leo.
Thank you. That was
along with,
very nice.
that
and
was
Kevin.
extremely amazing.
We did a tour. I wanted to make sure that they saw the new culinary building that we have here, and we were talking a little bit about the Russian service dinner, and you've heard me in the past talk about the Russian service dinner, and I borrowed this phrase from the professional wrestling industry, where there was a Bret Hart, if you know who that is, the Hitman. He used to talk about the excellence of execution. He was a very technical wrestler. Because his father used to be a very technical wrestler, and it got lost now for the steroids and bulked up and the acrobatics and whatnot. And it was the small things, grabbing you by the arm, flipping you to the ground. The restaurants that I really, really enjoy to go to more than any are the places that, one, know who they are because they've been trained to know who they are, right? You don't go into a fast casual restaurant expecting a white table experience, right? That ain't it. But when you go into these restaurants that are trying to be white, they're trying to be both white tablecloth and fast cash or some hybrid version of it, you get a bastardization of the service of it. And look, I appreciate all of it. Okay, I appreciate making my own food at home. But when you are in a place where the staff has been trained properly to be what they are, right? And y'all do an excellent job of that at each one of your locations. It's all different. We mentioned Stabs and Little Village. Y'all know how much I'm in Stabs. I'm as long as that smoked old fashioned is there, Norby will be there.
Oh, yeah.
My favorite one of your places is Palermo.
Palermo, yeah.
I mean,
Best kept secret in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
the stuffed shells,
Delicious.
ridiculous.
You know those stuffed shells? Again, going back to Wayne, that is a dish that Wayne's grandmother, who was from Palermo, Sicily, that's where her family's from, not her person, but his grandmother used to make that dish at their family dinners.
And it's
That's
a
where
small
that dish
little
came
place.
from.
You know, you
Yep.
get
Tiny.
excellent service, not a whole bunch of tops. Ilario loved it. You know,
16
President
tables.
Ilario, John
Yeah.
Ilario loved it. We go there all the time. He's a huge fan of y'all. He's a big supporter and whatnot. And the thing that I love, okay, that it can't ever be up for the single best bite because it's a bunch of the best bites. That giant antipasti plate, man. I mean, I could eat that every
Well,
day.
That and
Every
a
day.
bottle of wine and
100%. Yeah, exactly. And I'll do that. I mean, your bartenders know that I will do that.
Need to have the pizza over there.
I've had
my
it.
Gosh.
I've had just about everything on your menu. I mean, you fit your seafood, and that's talking about Wayne, who my family, my brother Marty, and all them have done business with Wayne, and good friend of ours. His place down in Grand now is amazing.
Had a good party there.
Yeah, we've had several
time
good
we saw
parties
you in
down there.
Granada.
That's right.
200 of our best friends down there.
But a guy that started out realizing where he was, right, in South Louisiana, running around, buying fresh seafood, becoming an entrepreneur, and selling it to restaurants. And next thing you know, you wind up in the restaurant business. But the quality of the seafood that you guys have. Look, it's easy to get good beef, right? It's either good or it ain't, right? There's so many opportunities so many different ways that you can buy seafood in the restaurant industry that sometimes it gets lost in the mail about, hey, don't worry, we're going to cover that with a sauce. And, the shrimp are pink before we cook them. But, hey, don't worry, when we cook them, they're going to be the right kind of pink.
Put some black and seasoning.
Yeah, a lot of that shit happens.
Make it brown.
You guys, and I think it's a testament to Wayne and his level of, this is going to be our quality control. This is what I want, and we're going to do it.
Well,
right?
That's his pet peeve.
No doubt.
Seafood is, 4 or 5 different fresh fish every day at Stabs. That's Wayne knows seafood.
Yeah.
He
And
knows
it's,
seafood.
it's the quality of the product.
The quality of the product is it's the best of the best. That's what he believes in. Talking about staffing. Those guys like Jonathan at Palermo, that's been his baby since they opened.
Yeah.
If you go to Central, David Ryan,
David was
that's
on
been
our-
his
yeah,
baby
he was a server
since we
when
opened.
we opened.
If you go to Little Village, Hugh Freeze, that's been his baby since we opened. Stabs, it's been his baby since we opened.
Yeah.
So not only does he believe in the great product, but he believes in great people.
Yeah.
And when you have that continuity and that, when you said people come in, they know you at the door, that is so hard to find right now.
Right.
People that we're losing that.
Well, I'll tell you, one you
We're
gain.
losing that in our business, people bringing robots into the buildings.
Yeah.
To deliver food, and man, this is the restaurant business. This is the hospitality business. This is the people's business.
Mm-hmm.
When you start, putting a tablet on the table and
I hate
put
that.
your food order in, and the food's going to be delivered by a robot, and hey, some people believe in that. That they believe in that formula. More power to them. But let me tell you something. You will never, ever, ever destroy fine dining, personal relationships. That's how you build this business.
Couldn't agree with you more. We do a critical critique segment, like I was talking about. When your wine list is to the level that it's truly excellent, and you guys have both worked at places, and you're running one now that has a phenomenal wine list. But you got to bring it to me on a tablet, and I have to now learn how to do, PowerPoint just to find out what the best Chablis is. Then I think your place has a problem, right? I want your sommelier to come tell me something, or I want your service to be knowledgeable, and not just going, well, if you click on this tab, you'll get to that. So maybe if you're thinking about it in the future, man, it's not my favorite thing, but that's just me. Speaking of wine, speaking of people that know that stuff, Dory.
Well, we were just going to talk about it. So all 3 of us are in the building on certain days.
Yeah.
The 3 of us, almost 100 years of experience in the restaurant business. You talk about the tablet. We think it's a valuable tool because people just kind of like flip through it. You put a little bit of a, this is what it is. This is what it kind of tastes like. But then we're there.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're most successful selling our wine. We sell so much Bordeaux.
Y'all sell the wine.
Because we sell the wine.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. You still touching the table. You're still going, hey, Kevin, what do you feel like drinking tonight?
There's
it's
not
not
a-
just like,
There isn't a time. The thing that I like about y'all and the way y'all do stuff is there's a lost art in the true check-in. We were talking about Meg Bifford and Lolly Brennan. All right.
Yeah.
Meg, our
Incredible.
one of our clearly our best graduates of the Culinary Institute, first female chef at Commanders.
She's amazing.
My buddy Casey Guidry, a good friend of the program, he pretty much has a standing VIP table in the garden room. Just about every non-special event Thursday, I'll get a call. Hey, you free? Can you make it? We're gonna go get lunch at Commanders or whatever. And Lolly's in there in that garden room and hitting that restaurant, going table to table and spending quality time with you. Not just hey, is everything okay? A quick high level wave. You guys,
you know what BOD means?
BOD.
Yes.
Do tell me.
That is part of the culture of the Brennan family. BOD means Brennan on duty.
Brennan on duty.
So you go back 30 years, whatever, there was always a Brennan on duty. You have Mr. John, was it Ella, was it Lolly, was it Dottie, Mr. Dick? There was always one of them.
You told me that last time we went to Brennan's.
When we went to Brennan's?
And you told me that.
You remember? Yeah.
I remember you told me, you said, I guarantee you.
That's a great story.
There is always a Brennan in the building.
We went there for
brunch. Lolly came in like on cue. He said, look, I told you that. He said, that's part of the culture of this restaurant and the mystique and everything else.
Tea.
Always.
Tea.
It was tea.
Oh,
It was tea.
tea.
It was tea. I'm sorry.
Tea.
I know,
Remember,
that's what
Tea
I'm
came running and
sorry, Tea. Forgive me.
Look who it is right there. Look who it is. Tea.
Yeah, it was tea. That's right.
And then she said that Lolly was at the house.
That's right.
Because and I was like, is the table bugged? We were just talking about this.
Just
She came in, and look, she went to every freaking table. Kevin's like, look at her. She's telling orders. She just grabbed the little girl. Remember, told the little girl. She was
hands on.
Very engaging. She was managing the floor.
She was managing the floor.
Entertaining the guests, and the whole time that the guests were being entertained, they did not notice her quality control that she was doing. She was looking at everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really a treat
It was
to
incredible.
watch.
It was incredible.
And he said that to me. It was with Leo and I and our wives, and he said that to me. And he said, you know what? I wonder who's going to be here today. There's always a Brennan on the floor.
I'll tell you what, we talked about so many old restaurants, okay, and how many have come and gone, and for whatever reason, the industry is very much a family thing, right? So many iconic restaurants that we have are family owned, and whether it's a few restaurants or one or two, the family is such a big deal. If it's an iconic one location and the patriarch or the matriarch decides they're calling it a day, maybe the kids don't pick it up for whatever reason.
That's happening too.
And you lose the restaurant. One place that I'm super excited about, our friends the Brennans, just took over Pascal's Manals.
Pascal Manals, yeah.
I mean, an iconic New Orleans restaurant that they're going to get involved in and take it to the next level. I'm super excited about that. They've been tremendous supporters of the Culinary Institute. T and Lally have respectively and collectively been to several events that we've had, and we're looking forward to having them either T and Lally or Lally and Meg, but they're all coming on the show. We confirmed that, and we're excited to make our schedules work. The fun part about this podcast, it's so conversational. We love to keep it going, and you guys are excellent at it because it speaks to who y'all are in this industry. But you've seen so many different things, and whether you like this and I don't like that, or y'all do one thing this way, I don't do it. It don't matter because it's just it's a menagerie of opportunities out there for people like us. But what I want to know, some of the places that you haven't worked at, that you've just been a patron of, that you go, now, if you haven't been, you need to try this place. Not just in Louisiana, anywhere in the world, man. I mean,
Leo's an encyclopedia of that. When I get those questions, and they're like, hey, Kev, I'm going to Las Vegas. I'm going to Chicago. I'm going to Beirut.
yeah.
Okay, where do I need to eat?
And look,
I said,
this ain't got to be.
You need to talk to Leo.
Yeah, this ain't got to be the best place. I put it to you like Chef Jeremy says, look, we're talking about hunger. We're not trying to solve world hunger, okay? Yeah. No, but think it. If it's three places, give me all three of them. We got time.
It's like always like when people ask you like, what's the best meal you ever had? I'm like,
I know, right?
is it a pull boy or you want me to do a 16-course meal?
Sickos like me have thought about that.
Or like, what's
What's
the
your
best,
favorite
what's the
wine?
best boudin? You know, like, what's your favorite wine?
What's your favorite
you know?
wine? That's the
like
one I
you told
get
us
a lot.
today, that boudin where we just went today. That was,
Big Mike's. The
Big Mike's. You know,
crawfish
I even asked the waitress, like, do you sell those to go? Like, you want to cook or uncook? Whatever. I mean, you know, it's a great question. I mean, Lord.
He's got to think too hard. I can tell you, for me, and the name of the restaurant, I tried to think of it earlier, and I remembered it. It was called Cyrus. Cyrus was in Healdsburg, right outside of Healdsburg, California. And
Is that your best meal? Or the restaurant?
Well,
That question is
No, one of my best places to go that I've never been a part of.
lately?
Oh no, it's
Whenever.
been years. It's been
Who cares?
years.
Don't matter.
Okay.
It's
It's
been
an open
years.
format.
But what this restaurant was the French Laundry without the pretentiousness. Okay? Which is why I enjoyed it so much more. I was fortunate enough, I've eaten at the French Laundry 3 times. The first time was a big celebration. We blew it all out. Fantastic meal. The second time was really, really nice too. The third time, I think the chef's tasting menu, the food was just not for me. Okay, it wasn't anything to do with the place itself, but Cyrus was the name of this place in Hillsborough. It was phenomenal. One of the best dining experiences I've ever had. They closed down because they had a problem with the lease of the property, and I just heard, and I haven't confirmed, that they may be making a comeback. They've been out of business for several years. So anyway, that's mine. I don't know how you're not gonna peg him to that.
Pick one.
He's got stuff forever.
Or just throw 3 names at me, places if you
All right, so best,
could be in Louisiana. It doesn't matter.
I had an incredible dinner at Carbone. You know Carbone? They in Vegas at Ario, Cosmopolitan. It was pretty incredible. Since then, they opened one in Miami. I think they got one in New York, and they might have opened some in Vegas. But Carbone, C-R-B-O-N.
In Vegas.
In Vegas.
See, I'm not a big Vegas guy. I've only been a couple of times.
Well, I mean.
But I'm going back next year.
So I lived in Vegas for 2
I hear there's a
years.
big football game.
Yeah. There's gonna be a good game there. Yeah. It's so much to Vegas than just a strip, you know. I just had a great dinner at Saffron
Yeah.
in New Orleans. My boy Ashwin is doing incredible job. Great story. Mom and dad, Indian family, and his flavors are extremely bold. And you know, there's a little bit. His gumbo got written up by the New York Times.
Wow.
So imagine an Indian curry gumbo. You know, it's still got the okra, the shrimp, the crab claws in there, but the flavors are incredible. And I don't know, steak-wise, you know, which is we always looking for
Stab's
that.
Prime, right there in Baton
Stab's
Rouge.
Prime, you know, in Baton Rouge. I eat there every day.
Yeah.
No, you know, my boy Desi in New Orleans is doing a good job. You know,
I'll tell you, that Covington location is
the
slammed.
Covington location.
Constant.
We were just there not too long ago.
Now, Covington's coming up.
Yeah, they got a couple people moving out there. You know, I mean, I lived in Abita for 15 some odd years. Back then we didn't have much, but there's a lot of people moving there.
That little downtown.
A lot of great restaurants going in
It's
there.
coming along.
And then best dinner ever. I mean, Charlie Trotter's. You know, the late Charlie Trotter, 17-course dinner, tasting menu. I don't think it'll be ever duplicated.
Now, do you two cook? Do either of y'all cook?
Oh yeah,
You
we,
cook?
Oh yeah, I love it.
we love
We
cooking.
both love to cook.
We
What's your
love to
thing?
cook.
What's your favorite? I mean, when I say Kevin, show off. What you doing?
He's not cooking a salad, I can tell you that much. Hey, he's gonna cook something with substance for sure. You know.
So, you know, I'm going to back it up real quick, too, because I told you I was going to tell you the Paul Prudhomme story,
I love it.
right? Okay.
Go ahead.
Mom gets elected to the court. Kay Paul's is across the street. So she keeps telling me, I want to introduce you to Paul Prudhomme. And I'd met him 3 or 4 times, but I know I'd met him. He would have
Yeah,
no reason
right, to remember you, right.
remember that he met me. I understood that. So finally we go down there. They're swearing Mom in as the Chief Justice. And we go in, and Mom's so excited. Chef, this is my son Kevin, who's in the restaurant business in Baton Rouge. At the time, you know, he was still on his little scooter. He wasn't getting around very well. And so he looked up at me, you know, And he was like Edwin Edwards fast, okay? It was so quick to come out.
Witty, yeah.
He looked right at me and he said, you know, if I go to a new restaurant and they got a little skinny guy running a joint, I said, I might look around and say the place looks nice. I might have a glass of wine, but I ain't eating the food because they got a little skinny guy running the joint. The food ain't gonna be any good. And then he patted me right on the stomach with the back of his hand. He goes, I see you run some pretty good places in Baton Rouge. I said, man, I think that's the nicest way I've ever been called that in my life. Thank you, Chef.
He was very courteous.
It was very good. It was hilarious. It was hilarious.
You know what is crazy? You said that at time you say something like food brings you back on that. He used to have a oyster Rockefeller po' boy. Imagine that.
Yeah. Wow.
You get the Langerheims bread, scoop it out, load it up with oysters Rockefeller.
We're gonna try that.
Delicious. Delicious.
We're gonna try to make
and
that.
You just brought me when you said that. I remember Cape Paul's. Oh my God.
Well, and so when I cook
remember
at
that.
home, I cook for the whole family.
Wait,
'Cause
before you get there, before you go there, we're talking about Paul Prudhomme, and I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Frank Brightston, who
Frank is the
I
man.
mean,
Yeah.
forever with Chef Prudhomme, and his commitment to this institution. From damn near day one,
Yeah.
Frank Brightston was a adjunct here, would drive from New Orleans here and back to just teach the classes, and
And he still teaches classes.
Yeah.
Right?
he pops in every now and then whenever we need him, but for the most part, he has retired himself. He's, Frank's getting older,
Yeah.
and but we'll be forever indebted to the amount of time that he gave to us as an adjunct professor teaching, the future culinarians of the world. But I had to get that in there before you started talking about this amazing thing.
Staying with him too, the dish that I enjoy cooking the most, that my youngest son actually, Clayton, it's his absolute favorite. These big, beautiful Gulf U12 shrimp, and I'll saute them and make a pasta. But I enjoy the seafood magic. The Prudhomme seasoning.
Yeah, the blend.
That's what I use. I picked up 3 bottles of it yesterday because I saw it in the store. So but anything that I cook at home, it's used to weigh the meals or the way the meals are supposed to be, and it's around family, and it's families and friends, and it's always been food and wine, and that's part of what I took from my grandfather. My mom's dad. He would call me. I was 7, 8 years old, and he would call me from Alexandria 2 weeks before we were going to go up to their house for a holiday. And I was the first grandson. Mom had 4 brothers. And he wanted to talk to me to know what did I want to have to eat. And so there was a bond there.
Right.
And so food at a very young age meant family to me. So you hear a lot of the stories all over the place. Family table, going back to Wayne with Palermo there, you come into Stab's Prime any given day, and we're a higher end steakhouse, prime beef, Allen Brothers, straight out of Chicago. It's you're going to get the best steak that you're going to get anywhere around here at Stab's Prime. But there's as much seafood on that menu as there is beef, and so it's for everybody in the family. There are families at tables all the way throughout. When the legislature's in town, of course, we see all those guys.
Yeah.
You see the businesses, you see the big corporations entertaining people. But the base core of what we do is our regular customer base, our regular guests, and it's them, their families. How many people come in to say, what was the best thing that I've seen lately? People bring their high school and middle school children in and treat them to dinner at Stab's for making straight A's. That over the last maybe 4 or 5 years, I really started seeing a lot of that. I don't remember seeing that 15, 20 years ago. That wasn't the deal.
That's the way of introducing the kids to the
bringing them
Art
to
of fine
finer,
dining.
nice
finer
places.
So that's a long roundabout way of what I like to cook. And then my oldest son Hudson is like me. He's got a love for food. So he can be my guinea pig. Clayton's the picky one. If I got to cook what Clayton would like to eat, or he'll just taste it and he'll smile and he'll be polite, but he's not going to eat it. So
How about you, Lee?
that's that. 24-year-olds.
So being around,
Yeah, no doubt.
being around meat all the time, I kind of try to stay away from it when I'm at home. Very rare do I cook steaks. at the house. My wife likes to eat very clean.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of seafood. Love seafood. We love lamb, believe it or not.
Love lamb.
Yeah, I love rack of lamb. My mom just came in from Miami and she was like, don't forget to cook that lamb. So we did some lamb. But I love experimenting. Just like you say, you like cooking at home. I just made my own marmalades the other day.
Nice.
Made a pineapple and ginger marmalade, which is a process. Made my own orange marmalade, strawberry marmalade. Just, stuff that is not really fancy.
Yeah.
Unless we got people coming over the house. More like, he goes back to saying, home cooking. I make a pretty mean lasagna.
There you go.
I started experimenting with making gnocchi now.
Me too.
Which is like, it's simple.
Yeah.
It is a very simple recipe, but it's nothing more rewarding. It's like baking bread. That's what I was talking to the chef earlier when he was giving the tour. When we went into the baking area, it's like going like, this is where it's at.
Ain't no doubt.
Baking is so hard to do.
Very
making your own
meticulous.
it's very meticulous. You can't miss a step.
That's why I don't do it that often.
Yeah.
But I have started to make my own pasta.
The pasta is very
not
rewarding.
that hard, but very rewarding. And then we have a restaurant in Homa that is spectacular. Okay, it's called Cristiano's Restaurant. If you've never been there, you need to go. Again, very committed to the excellence of execution. This is every day and if you're watching us, you appreciate food and you appreciate the experience. So, but you guys would appreciate this every day, Monday through Saturday. Welcome. Let me tell you about our specials. The soup special, the gnocchi special, the risotto special, the pasta special, the fish special. Then they'll tell you about another special, okay? And they'll say, and with that, it comes with this risotto, which the risotto is not the same one as the risotto special.
They working.
How many places
commitment.
That's
would
not-
That's
go?
commitment.
Well, we're making a risotto special, and by the way, it's going to be with the entree special too. I mean,
You're making fresh gnocchis.
now what?
That's
Again,
beautiful. That.
Lindsay is a graduate of the Culinary Institute. He's doing an amazing job over there. Cristiano's been around for a long, long time. It's one of the best Italian restaurants in the state of Louisiana, without question. The gnocchi thing, man, I just got a ricer. And y'all know Tanner McGee, Speaker Pro Tem of the House.
Yeah.
Well, I posted about that I'd made the gnocchi, my first batch, like a week and a half ago. He sends me a picture of his grandmother's, I said, that's got to be Nona's. He goes, Nona's mama. And it was a ricer, a true old country ricer that she says, we make the best gnocchi in
Now
this
the
house.
question is,
Sends me to rest. I was like, okay, well, I said, Buff Day fan, Nona, she passed away recently. And Tanner's an amazing cook and a coffee connoisseur, by the way. There's
really?
like 17
That's right.
coffee things, how to make coffee. I just switched to the Italian mocha pot method because of him recently. But anyway, I said, well, you'll have to make it for me. He went up, sends me the great-grandmother's gnocchi recipe. I'm like,
really?
Yes. Score.
here we
You're
go.
gonna have to share that one. Now the question is, when you're making it,
Uh-huh.
are you using the fork roll or are you using the little wooden
No roll.
no roll?
No roll. I haven't gotten that for yet because even Tanner jumped on me about that. He's like, where's the roll marks? I said, we ain't there yet, coach. We just said I tried it twice.
I had someone
tried
come
it
in
twice.
and they were
I
like,
couldn't
so
do it.
What are you rolling with? I'm like, man, I'm like rolling with my hands. And,
Yeah.
Once I get those potatoes, I let them rest. And he goes like, no, how you like?
Yeah, right,
Are you
right.
that, or you using the fork and I'm like you.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten there yet, so I think I'm going with the thumb roll. You
So
know?
Cristiano's, they do it so, and they had one that was a brown sugar, butter, and shrimp one that was phenomenal. And some they had like a roasted red tomato in it. And again, they change them every single day. It's never 2 days in a row. It's
You can tell the difference. I mean,
oh, it's phenomenal.
gnocchi
So I was
is-
like, I got to do it. I cook enough. I got to do it, and I recently did it, and I
1
love
minute it should.
yeah, pop up, float,
1 minute.
perfect. But
Delicious. I'm already thinking about what I'm putting in the dish.
Yeah.
Some gorgonzola.
We talked about the restaurants.
Brown
We've
butter.
been all over the place.
Crab meat, truffles.
I can talk for forever. All right, I don't know what y'all time schedule is like, but we've mentioned Stabs. We talked it now. Run me through all the restaurants under the Stab umbrella.
So, chronologically, right? The Little Village, with the downtown location, and we had the Little Village on Airline, which is out between the New Women's Hospital and the Highland Road out there. Hugh Freeze kind of looks over all of those. We got a great. You hadn't met Brian Miner yet, who's our general manager at the Little Village downtown. So
All right.
he getting him into that flow of things with the legislative stuff being in session now too. So the two Little Villages, we have Stabs in Central. That Stabs Prime, the steakhouse that we have on Jefferson, was in Wayne's mind to do. And then the
And that was a
opportunity.
bank building before. What?
It was, yeah. But it
That was a
it
hell of
it
a
was bank.
renovation project.
Well, yeah. If we'd have just torn it down from the beginning and done it as a new build, it probably saved $1.5 million in about 6 months. But anyway, so we opened Stabs in Central. It was an opportunity to get out there in that market, and that's been a fun, great market for us to be in out there. They've done really well, out in that spot. So and we kind of cut our teeth on the steakhouse business out there, and then we're doing Stabs Prime. That was a big, long project. Excuse me. And I'll never forget. I was working at the Little Village downtown, and Wayne called me. And he says, "I'm opening an Italian restaurant." We're in the middle of getting everything set for Stabs Prime, right? And I said, "Well, you already have 2 Italian restaurants." He goes, no, I'm doing another one, a little one right here. It's across the street from Stabs. And so that was Palermo. So we get that opened up while we were building Stabs. So then Stabs Prime on Jefferson really kind of took over as a flagship there, although the Little Villages had done the workload forever in the company and still do.
No doubt.
They are the workhorse properties. No question.
Little Village downtown is probably the restaurant I consistently eat in the most in all of Baton Rouge. Just the proximity of it and the consistency of it, and
it's that rustic tomato sauce, and you don't have to add. Miss Fanny DeStefano, who was the matriarch from the original Village in the 50s. Now, she used to always say that the red sauce. If you caramelize the onions properly, you should never need to add any sugar.
That's right.
Okay, so there's the two different things. It's a rustic sauce that's there at the Little Villages, and it's phenomenal. And then our latest project, Wayne is very nostalgic, and he loves Baton Rouge. We don't have the history like the New Orleans history, and then in America, we don't have the history like Europeans, okay? So everything's relative. But for our market in Baton Rouge, there are some places that we went to in college, and Sammy's Grill was one of them. And when Sammy fell on some hard times and all of his properties ended up not making it, and so Wayne set out a way to do that. He bought the name from Sammy, and he reopened the original location on Highland. So we had the
I'll work out
Sammy's
next
Grill
week
now.
at any time.
Well, you talk about crawfish.
Yeah, you talk about Sammy's
that's the deal.
Yeah.
But the dishes that he's got there, I mean, that thin fried catfish on top of the white beans. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? It's delicious.
And I can't tell you how many friends of mine have been bartenders at Sammy's.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that too. It takes a lot of people to make that place run. I'm gonna tell you, that's a big building, and it's fast paced, and it's a lot of college kids, and so we've got all of those locations, and then Wayne owns them all. He's got, he's had partners here and there, and he still has a partner at the Little Villages, but for the most part, they're a reflection of what he wants to do. And like Leo said earlier, and like you said earlier, he has faith in the people that we bring on board. And that's one thing that Leo and I both share is a vision for our personnel groups. you hire someone based on what you think they're going to deliver to you with a work ethic and a table presence. I'm talking about service staff on the floor. There are these things that are intangible and you can't teach. I can teach you how to open a bottle of wine. You know, we can teach you how to carry a tray. We can teach you the ingredients of these items. But if you're not that person that has a personality and a passion, and a lot of times you can see it in people's eyes.
Yeah.
You know, when you're going through the interview process. Unfortunately, there are a lot of things in the restaurant industry that need to be done. So, you know, I would say we have about 350 employees in Baton Rouge between the restaurants. Okay. The difference is now with COVID and the people that we get to use, we never dipped down below our numbers. A lot of people struggled. A lot of people weren't able to get staff. What happened with us, because of, I think, the leadership from the top on down, from what we try to do for Wayne and from what we've learned to work with him and everything we do at the restaurants, we keep our people. Now, we pay them, but the difference is that out of those 350, maybe there are about 80 that we still have the number, but maybe we would not have looked at them pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Okay, so we kept our numbers, but so what does that do? That falls squarely on the shoulders of management.
Yeah.
You all of a sudden, we're in the restaurants, Leo, Dory, myself, over 100 years of experience, we laugh all the time. The pressure comes down to our level now, because you can't rest on your laurels. You've got to take these kids that maybe don't have the passion that you're used to being able to get, and you got to dig in with your passion, and you got to teach them more. You know, so that's been the biggest challenge, I guess, for us in our market.
The one thing that I'll say about y'all and Wayne is you changed the market. Okay, I'll go back to the Baton Rouge that I walked into again in 2009 with only, like the little village and whatnot, and the old guard restaurants has changed so much. And we banged on the market in the first episode about Baton Rouge is not a culinary town, but it's getting there. And y'all have been a huge part of that. Yeah. And I know that your latest variation of a restaurant ain't going to be your last. I have no doubt about that. And the one thing that I love about you two, other than being great friends and your knowledge of the industry and your compassion for the business and the people, is you don't often say no. When you guys say no, I know it's no.
It's no.
Hey, can I get a 10 top in there? Yeah, we'll make it happen. Can I get a 4 top? No. I'm like, these some bitches are slammed today. Well, listen, we appreciate how much time y'all have given us. We're about to run the battery down. We've been talking so
That's
long.
awesome. That's good. That's when you
Leo,
have a good time.
Kevin, my friends, I appreciate y'all coming and being a part of this.
Thank you,
We
man.
talked
It's my
about it for a
pleasure.
long
Yeah,
time. I'm
thank
glad
you.
we were able to make y'all trek down to Bayou to the river parishes in the bayou, and we'll be back here shortly with a little bit of a critical critique for the industry as itself. Luckily, we ain't gonna bang on nobody's food too hard. So, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
So when you want to talk about stories and things you hear and see in the restaurant industry, man, I can only imagine how many laws these guys watch getting made and how many family fights they've probably seen in the restaurant and how many long drunken conversations they've observed with patrons and probably had with patrons, which kind of brings me to my critical critique. I recently had lunch in Baton Rouge at a place that I frequent and really enjoy, and I was surprised at the way that one of the folks that were running it was talking to me. They weren't talking to me negatively, but they talked about two of the things. They were trying to start up a conversation with me about the two things that you probably shouldn't talk about over the table. We all heard it in our own homes, and that's religion and politics. Now this is, I'm a political guy. Those are political folks. We talk about politics all the time. But when you're trying to ingratiate yourself to your patrons, let's not go down that road. I don't think it's a wise thing to do because you don't really know what's going on in somebody's head and on their heart. So just remember this. When you're working in the hospitality industry, be nice. Know when to open your mouth, know when to keep it closed, because after all, discretion's the best part of valor. We appreciate you sticking with us on this show, The Back of the House. Remember, like, subscribe, tell your friends about it, and we'll see you next time.